All right, wake it up, boys and girls. Today we need to answer a question. That question is, will it kayak? So I'm going to be reviewing this knife right here from the aspect of the mission of kayaking, and I'll get into that in a second. So let's get into it. This is a Ganzo G-720. It's a copy of the Lionsteel SR4, I think. It's a lot cheaper. The Lionsteel knife is, I can't tell which one it is, but it's way over 100. It's at least 140, maybe 180. And this one is a lot less hurtful for your wallet. And what I needed, my question today is, will this knife be a good knife for kayaking? And so here's what I want. Here's what I want out of a kayak knife. First, let me run through what I want to keep in my life jacket when I'm kayaking. Definitely a knife. That's the main thing I want in there. Second, I just have this whistle. Apparently every manufacturer in the world thinks you need a whistle. You need 500 whistles to do anything outside. I've never used a whistle in my life in the woods, whether I was backpacking or paddling or anything. I've never used a whistle. But you never know if you would need it. Just think if Ned Beatty had a whistle when he was on the river in the movie Deliverance. What if he was just sitting there with all those crazy guys trying to hurt him and he just had the whistle? That might have helped him. I don't know. They look fairly determined. Let's move on. So whistle, I got that just for fun. This is the main thing I want as a knife. I have a hank of nautical line here, and I have a blood sugar issue, so I've got some little suckers here, and these are good too, just in case if you have trouble keeping your blood sugar up. These little things here are good. They're just energy gels that several companies make, but that's a good thing to have if you're diabetic. So I just have all this in my pocket when I go kayaking, and this is clipped in. That's the main reason I'm using this whistle, because it has a good doolally right here. So what happened was I was kayaking, and I like to be prepared, not crazy prepper prepared, not Charlie in the tree line prepared, but I do like to have everything I need, and I don't want to be stuck. I'm an independent person. I don't want to be stuck dependent on anybody else. So what I decided was to have a blade that I can cut line, maybe do some bushcraft if something happened and the boat turned, or I got stuck in the woods, or I don't know. I just like to be prepared. There was one time when the drain plug on one of my kayaks got lost by a joker in the youth group that I will not name, even though I want to name him very badly. And when I asked about it, he said, I don't know what happened to it, and didn't care either. Anyway, so if I still sound, dear Lord, please forgive me. I should not hold that against him, and I won't call his name, even though I want to. Okay, so what happened was I had to take my knife and make a new wooden plug, so that was easy. I had a knife with me, so I just whittled down a stick right like I wanted to, put it in the plug, and it was fine. Now, will this kayak? So here's my standards. Here's what I want. I want it to be sturdy. I want it to be bushcraftish. Let's open it up and check it out here. I want it to be bushcrafty. So I didn't even clean it from the last time I went paddling. And I want to be able to, carve and do some heavy duty stuff with it if this is the only thing I got. And then I want it to be able to handle water and get wet. I want it to be able to not rust, and I want it to be able to just handle well under neglect and abuse. If I can just be honest, because I don't plan on taking care of this. I plan on putting this in my life jacket over there, and then just keeping it in the boat so I don't lose it. And that way it'll be a dedicated knife. So let's get into the specifics very quickly. All right, this blade is 3.5 inches long, 440C stainless. Let's open up my SAF Vespa so you can see that. Okay. So that's the size of it. It's a G10 scales, which are very grippy. It has the price is $21.95. I looked it up on Amazon last night. Again, the Ganzo G-720. And I'm not a huge fan of orange knives, but I figured in this situation, sort of rescue-y looking. So before that, before I got this knife, this is what I kept in my life vest. Flotation device, PFD, professional flotation device. This is an old Leatherman that I've had for a long time, and I'll see if you can see the thing. I was looking for the name of it. Like I hear people talk about the Leatherman Wave and different names of products at Leatherman. This just says Leatherman Super Tool. It's one of the first ones that came out back in the day. And I've got it, and it's solid as a rock. There's not really a good way to hook a lanyard to it in case I lose it, but it just stayed in that life jacket for the longest time. And I was looking at it. There is not a lot of rust, there's anything. It's been wet 100 times, not 100, but plenty. So that's where I was on it, and there's your specs. Let's go over my pros and cons, my opinions of this thing. All right, here's the things I like about it. I love the blade shape on this. It's a big fat. I measured it in inches, the thickness of this blade stock. You can see some pieces of rust here. It's about 3/16, between 3/16 and an eighth, so it's pretty thick. It's a big beefy blade. It's just like I like. Just like what I wanted, and I believe it can take some abuse. It has a very grippy handle, which is important if I'm getting wet. If I'm having to use this in a situation where it's raining or I'm in the river, having to use the knife. And then again, just the beefiness and substantialness of this knife. It's got a pretty strong clip. It can clip onto something if you want to. And I haven't worn it in my pocket too much because it's kind of heavy. That's one of the cons. It's just a little bit heavy to walk around with if you're just like going to the grocery store or something. So those are the main things I like about this. This is a really decent knife. I give it a B or B plus on all of those normal things, but those things do not answer will it kayak or not. So let's get to the cons. So the cons on this guy is this G-lock here. They call it the G-lock, and it's the copy of the Access lock from Benchmade. And without getting into that whole argument about copies and everything, I do think it's good to go ahead every time I talk about one of these locks and just say, okay, this is from the Benchmade. So even though I like this knife and I do kind of recommend it, I would. Not everybody can afford a Benchmade, but I want everybody to know, hey. This thing here is copied from Benchmade. The whole design is copied. If you Google Lionsteel SR4, it's going to look just like this, except for that guy. So the cons are this G-lock is stiff, and I'm not a big fan of having to mess around with a knife if I'm in a tough situation on the river. So I'd have to be extra careful with it. Now, if I just have to pull to the side and, like I said, carve out another plug for my kayak or do something with a stick, cut a branch or something, that's one thing. It's no big deal. But if I am in a tight situation and I got to cut some line, this might not be so well, work so well. But I don't find myself in a lot of tight situations either. I'm not talking about whitewater kayaking. I'm talking about mostly just relaxing, some class 2s every now and then. 1s and 2s, and chilling on the river, man. That's just a good time. If you haven't done it, I highly suggest it. This is really too heavy. Going on my list of cons, this is really too heavy for me, for EDC, for everyday carry. For those of y'all that know that. So when you're walking around with this in your pocket, it's just too much for me. But like I said, if you're keeping it in your pack, or for me, if I'm putting it in my life vest, it's fine for that. It's just weird in your pocket to have that much weight. And let's get to our last con, and this might affect our question. So let's see here. See these marks on the blade? Now I've taken this kayaking once for 2 days. We did an overnight on a couple of great rivers, me and my buddy. And this was new. There was no marks on it. This was last week. There were no marks on this knife when I took it out there. So you got that. You have this here, a little bit of rust spot there. And there were some other ones around through here. And so here's what happened. So I went kayaking. You know, we got wet. That's what you do when you're on the river. And when I came back, I did not take all of my gear out of the truck and dry it and clean it and store it. I did not do that. On this one, we had an incident on this trip. And one of the kayaks jumped up out of the back of my truck over a speed bump when I went over a speed bump and popped the back glass out of my truck. So when I got back, I was kind of concerned about getting all that fixed. And I didn't take care of my equipment like I like to. But what happened was, this was in the vest for 2 or 3 days wet. And this is what happened. And I plan on doing that to this thing. I would like to have a knife that I could do that with. And so anyway, we got a little bit of an issue here. I think the rust that was over here, it rubbed off very quickly and easily when I just rubbed it with my thumb. And you might can see some stuff. But yeah, so I haven't cleaned this. I mean, I wanted you guys to see it dirty. So I can clean it. Couple of questions. One, what knife would you recommend to keep in this situation? I'm thinking about one of those sailor knives. There's some knives they issue to the Coast Guard and stuff that are saltwater resistant and rust resistant and have a marlin spike. I kind of wouldn't mind a marlin spike on a knife. So if you have suggestions about that, I'd appreciate it. Anyway, I'll give this a B+. B+. It works fine. I didn't do too much bushcraft with it this time. I shaved a little burr off of my paddle with it. I did something with, just for fun. I just messed with. I shaved some sticks just to say I used it really. But that's it. That's the main thing I want to know. So this is the Ganzo G-720. Will it kayak? My response to that question is yes. ... For now. But I'm still looking. And again, this was a good trial. And what if I had bought this Lionsteel for $150, hoping to keep it in my kayak, and then this stuff happened? Now you might say, well, it wouldn't happen to that knife because it's a lot well built here in the United States and all of that, and that might be true. But do I want to gamble that? No. And do I want to spend $150, $180 on a knife? I don't want to. I don't want to do that. So that's where I'm at on that. Thanks for watching, and have a good one.